Yo, what's going on, everybody? As you guys see, we are joined by another guest doing another Arizona Cardinals mock draft. Kyler, if you can let them know where they could find you, go ahead and plug yourself real quick.
Hey guys, my name's Kyler Burd. You guys might know me from Twitter at azcard_birdseye. You can also find me here on YouTube under Bird's Eye View. Been doing some of my own draft type of analysis as we get a little bit closer to the draft. But thankful to you, dude, for having me on. I think it's the first time I've been on your channel.
It is the first time. It's about time too. With mock drafts coming up, with the draft season, it's like the perfect time to just get a bunch of opinions, a bunch of
Right,
different takes. Because there's a lot of things that the Cardinals can do, and this is something that I think is perfect: is our draft position. Pick
right.
16, dead middle. The top end talent isn't really there after the first three picks, or you could even argue the first two picks. It kind of falls off. I'm a fan of a couple prospects. I think for the first five, if you have one of those selections, you're in a good spot. But after that, the top end talent isn't there. It's a loaded class for defensive line, edge rushers, but we're in a really good spot, whether that's trading up or trading down. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the pole position this year because after I don't even know if I would extend it to the top six. The talent drop off is pretty severe, I'll say it drops off and it plateaus. So the difference between number 7 on a big board and number 50 on a big board might be the least that I've seen in a long time. So I think with where the Cardinals are picking at 16 and 47 in the first two rounds, those are going to be two players of pretty roughly equal talent in my mind. So there are so many directions you can go. And I think with what the team has done in free agency already, Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson alone, those two additions mean 16 and 47 are pretty open for business. It can go a lot of different ways. I don't think we're tied into defensive line like we maybe were before free agency opened. So I think 16 in some years, it's kind of a tough position to be in, but you can move down from here and still be getting great talent. 16 is a really good spot for where the Cardinals are, and I think where they are in their rebuild process too.
I agree 100%. So if you had to evaluate it, you said defensive tackle isn't as big of a need, but if you were going into this draft and you had three of the biggest positions that we have to address, like if we walk away addressing these three positions, it's a win. What are those three?
Defensive tackle still in there. It is. I also think this is maybe my hot take, but I think most people do agree with it. We need a linebacker. I I get that we've been scarred and traumatized by first round linebackers, and we'll look at it. I'm not advocating for a first round linebacker, but I do think that's a bigger team need than most of the sites have listed on our team needs, and more than a lot of people have been talking about. I think we definitely need a linebacker, especially since it looks like Kaiser White is not coming back. And I would say the third one, interior offensive line, with the edge group that we've got with Josh Sweat leading it now, and if BJ Ojolari is healthy, if you have some other pieces along that front seven, I think that can get the job done. You're still probably going to take an edge somewhere in here, but it's hard to overstate how important interior offensive line is. And this is actually a pretty decent interior class. The tackle class is not so strong, but I think you can get some really good guards in this class. Even fairly late. So I think the strength of this specific draft class is not in skill position players necessarily, but I don't think the Cardinals are in that spot that they need it. This is like a meat and potato type of draft where you got to get big men on either trench is fine, and focus on defense. And there's a lot of players that's kind of hard to go wrong with. So the strengths of this class, I think, kind of line up perfectly with where the Cardinals are at.
It
We don't need
really does.
a back. We don't need a well, we could use a wide receiver, but like it's not a pressing need. We definitely don't need a tight end. Like things are just kind of lining up this year.
Yeah, it really is. Like the draft, like I said, perfect spot. I can't complain. And we're going to hop right into this thing. And you mentioned before, you're a big trade down candidate. Are you looking to trade up at all, or should we just go right to 16?
There's maybe one player that I'd give serious consideration to trading up for, and it kind of depends on if he goes before 12. I think if Armand Membu is there around 12-ish, he might be the only player that I would look to actually trade up to get, because he does look like the best tackle in this class. And I kind of touched on it, but the talent in tackle this year falls off fast. Like after the first 3 tackles, really, you're falling pretty hard. The interior stuff, you can make arguments for that, but this is not a very strong tackle class. But Membu is really great, and if he is someone that you truly think is your bookend right tackle, that's going to be opposite Paris Johnson Jr. for the next 8 to 10 years, that's worth moving up for to me.
Okay. So if he is still here by Dallas's pick, you want me to pause it and we'll just come back to it?
Yeah, I want to see if he is there at Dallas. Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Everything is falling how I expect. Mason Graham to the Patriots. That's kind of
Yeah,
interesting. And then it goes Membu. Yeah.
yeah,
So just wait until 16.
yeah. Let's see what happens
Dang,
at
Ashton Jeanty
16.
to San Fran? That's like
Oh
the first
God.
time I've seen that actually fall. I've seen Chicago take him. I've seen the Raiders take him in mocks. I've even seen some where he just falls to like any of these teams down here, which is kind of weird. But I've never seen a mock to San Fran. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I really don't want that to happen.
But pick 16, here we are. There's a lot of names on the board. Who is standing out to you? Are you thinking trade back?
Let's take a look at the players that we've got there. So at 16, you're kind of in a spot where you're in the place where you can take the best player available, but you also want to take a player that is worth a pick that high. And here's my thing with Mike Green. Talent-wise, he's there. He's worth a 16th round pick or 16th overall pick. But
The charges off the field kind of got you thinking different. I think that's the thing with me too. Is like talent wise and tape wise, he had 17 sacks. Like you can't overlook the 17 sacks. Production's there, pass rate, win rush, but then the allegations off the field and that happening twice.
exactly.
It's hard to see Monty Ossenfort dabbling in, but like talent wise, and if that isn't a factor, this is a player that could go top 10.
Right. I totally agree. And the problem with Mike Green is not his talent at all. He's an incredibly talented athlete. It's just the allegations. And we've never seen Monty even touch a player with like a whiff of controversy around him. Steve Keim would occasionally do stuff like that. I mean, obviously Robert Kimdichie, but even Marco Wilson with a little shoe throwing accident at Florida, like that's not a thing that Monty would touch, right?
No.
So I think that alone takes him out off the board for the Cardinals. I truly do. Now, if on draft night he does become the 16th pick, then I would trust that Monty did the homework and that there's nothing to the allegations and he's super confident. And I would trust him in that. But for us right here, talking about hypothetically, I just think he's off the board for us completely. And it's kind of similar how I feel about James Pierce Jr. too. Definitely nothing criminal the same way the allegations are against Mike Green. Yeah. But even the character concerns, he doesn't work very hard. He's all about it or all in it for himself. Like it doesn't feel like a Monty or a JG guy. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. I just can't see Monty dabbling into these two
I
personally,
can't either.
but the talent wise is so there for both of these guys, and it's so unfortunate.
Right. Really, the only edge I could see us taking in the first round is Donovan right here as Araku. He has flown up big boards lately. Like in the last 3 to 4 weeks, he's really gone up from kind of a late second rounder up into a pretty consistent first rounder. And I like him a lot, but I don't know if you're with me on this. I don't know that I like him at 16.
No, I think he's like, in terms of where I would be comfortable taking him, I think like the 21, or maybe even like 22 to 28 range.
I fully agree with that. And that's kind of how I feel about everyone that's left at this point is why not trade down a few spots, get a little bit of capital, and you're still going to get a good player who's within that plateau range because of that drop off in this class. So let's take a look at least at who who might be willing to trade with us.
So the two teams is Atlanta, who doesn't have a first round pick, which I don't think the Cardinals should even entertain that at this
Nope.
point because we need talent right away. We need a player
Agreed.
who can come in, and then the Commanders is 29. I think that is a steep trade back,
It
but
is.
you could also get. I feel like you can get some good capital here.
So this is exactly who I would target at 29 in a trade back with Commanders, because I could see this happening. I actually could. If you can get back to 29 and get a lot of capital, because we only have 6 picks this year, and still get Derek Harmon, you've won the draft at that point, in my opinion. Because I know, just based off what Monty has done in the past and how he operates, he doesn't love only having 6 picks. And the draft is about quantity. Statistically, you just have a better chance of hitting on a great player if you have more picks, if you have more tries to find the right one. There's a lot of chance in the draft, even if you do your job well. So pick up picks, and it looks like they would accept this. We would get, what, a second rounder?
A third rounder, and then a third rounder next year for them to jump 13.
I mean, that's steep to drop back to 29, but from what I've been seeing, Derek Harmon's around there quite often. And if either him or Walter Nolan or Donovan Ezraku are still there at 29, you've done a lot. I think we should take the chance.
I think we can even get more. We can get like around 6. I mean, we're comfortable with this. I think this is a good package, but
He loves picking up future options too. So I say, if they're going to take that, which for a trade back of what, 13 spots, that's pretty realistic.
Let's go ahead and offer it, and it goes through. So we picked up a first this year in the back end, which is basically just an early second rounder, if you look at it that way. You have another second rounder, I believe, and then you have a third round pick, and then a third rounder next year, which is kind of huge. That's a good pickup, and then a 2027 round 6, which Monty Austinfort loves to just take gambles and take chances. So this is a pretty solid pickup, I would say.
I think so too, but I wonder what you think about, is there a guy after 29 that you think might go a few picks later, like before 40, that's worth trading 47 and maybe something else to move up and get 2 players in the top 40?
I mean, I think you can move up from 29, honestly.
You could.
It just depends what kind of prospects you think are entertaining. Like, I like Josh Simmons. I think he's a great athlete. I think he would be like a consensus top 15 if he never tore his ACL.
Right.
He's super athletic, would fit this run scheme perfectly. And then solidifying your tackle position would be good. You also have someone like Kelvin Banks, who's a really solid option. Can play tackle, could play guard, would slot in perfectly. I like Ibuka, but I don't think the Cardinals dabbling in with 2 first-round wide receivers is smart in this draft. No matter how much I love him talent-wise, Will Johnson already went, I believe. So he's off the board for me. And then you have like Walter Nolan, who's one of the best pass-rushing defensive tackles, interior linemen in this class, and the potential is definitely there. So moving up, I think, is in consensus. What do you think?
With a trade back this severe, I think that's totally reasonable, and we've seen Monty do it in the first round. Like his very first year as GM, he made 2 moves in the first round down and then back up to get Paris Johnson Jr. So he's willing to do that, and he is willing to do it for a tackle. My problem is, after Membu, I don't know if Simmons, with that injury concern, is someone you move back up for. You know what I mean? If he fell to 29, that's something. Maybe you take a risk and take a Josh Simmons at 29. But do you move back up to get Simmons with the patellar tendon tear? I don't know.
It's a tough one. So who's the prospect you would like? Let's skip a couple, and if you see any names that fly off. I mean, I think Donovan just went. So we have Mike Green, Mikael Williams, Jalen Walker, Donovan.
Okay, let's see
the board, but that means Walter Nolan's on the board. Josh Simmons is on the board.
Yeah, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. Kenneth Grant hasn't gone yet, has he?
Kenneth Grant has not gone yet.
Ooh. So in the great debate in the Cardinal space right now between Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon, I think most people know my opinion. I'm a Derek Harmon man. Which, if you don't mind, I'll plug a video on my channel about Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant. You guys can go and watch my comparison there. My only real argument is not Kenneth Grant is not a talented player, because he absolutely is. but it's, are you drafting a Dalvin Tomlinson replacement, like a nose tackle of the future in Kenneth Grant? If so, there's a lot of value there, not a problem with it. Or are you trying to get a defensive lineman who slots in opposite Darius Robinson and keeps Dalvin Tomlinson in the lineup and is that kind of edge guy for you? I personally think the Cardinals need that more than a Tomlinson backup at nose tackle.
I agree.
But they're both such solid picks. You can't really go wrong with either one. To me, right now, the only 3 players I would go back up for, since Ezraku just went, are Walter Nolan, who I don't know if there's any truth to the character stuff for him, but the talent's undeniable. Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon.
I think Harmon will be there at 29.
I think he will too, and then you don't have to give up any capital.
And then you keep those 2 second-round picks, another third, and you just have capital for days. I mean, you have 6 picks in the top 128. That is exceptional.
Right, and we could even use 115 and 128 to move back up into the top 100 maybe, and have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks in the top 100.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good too. Let's see if Harmon falls to 29.
Okay. I'm not mad at that.
I think we're still going to get a really good player at 29.
There goes Nolan and Grant.
Interesting.
Okay. So 2 of them just flew off.
Whoa. Right.
Instantaneously. I mean, Kenneth Grant, I would assume in real life, is someone that the Chargers could take if the Chargers don't take Ibuka.
Agree.
And then, I mean, Kenneth Grant to the Steelers is like the perfect replacement for Cam Ward, who kind of slides in as a 3-tech and can slide interior. He can slide on the edge sometimes. I mean, they don't want to put him interior, but they can just because he's that good of a player. So Kenneth Grant kind of fills that hole for a guy who's like 36 years old.
Right.
But here we go. The Vikings need defensive interior.
But they also did a bunch of that in free agency.
They did.
Like, they spent a ton of money on their defensive line in free agency. And if this was totally like mocking out in real life, I wouldn't be concerned about the Vikings. The Texans, I think, have to take an offensive lineman.
But Josh Simmons just went off the board, too. So that means all the tackles that
Kelvin
are projected.
Banks, probably.
Is Kelvin Banks still on the board?
I think he is.
He is still on the board. Okay,
I think
so that would
Texans
probably be the pick right there. That he kind of fits them perfectly, too.
Oh, he does. He's actually a really good fit for them. And LA did the doubling up on defensive linemen last year. Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. The Ravens, I don't know.
The Ravens are such a wild card. I mean, I think they could get a DB too. Like
the
Ravens,
Ravens,
an outside corner, another one would fit so perfectly. They already have one guy who's super athletic on one side. Get another one, pair that, you're chilling. But
has
I don't know.
Barron already gone?
That's what I was gonna say. I didn't see Texas, but no, he went number 6.
Whoa. Okay.
So Barron and Will Johnson both went.
Interesting.
Which means there's so much in play here. The Lions don't necessarily need interior defensive line help. It wouldn't hurt, but it wouldn't like necessarily benefit them in any way because they're getting a ton of guys back from injury who were sidelined. They had like 16 plus, I think, on IR last year. The Ravens are a team where you have no idea where they're going to go. I don't think there's a guard, which is what's listed as a need, that's going number 27.
Not unless Tyler Booker is really surprising and actually does go in the first round.
I think we just sent him to 29.
I think so too. Ravens scare me because Ravens do have this amazing, I don't want to say luck. They're just a really well-run organization and good players fall to them and they take good players. But I think we're still going to get a great player at 29. So let's just see what happens.
I agree. I think for some reason, just the people who fall. Okay, that's perfect. James Pierce is still on the board. I think the people that fall to Philadelphia and the Ravens,
right?
They're just so good at like taking the BPA, best player on the board, or best
every
player
year,
available, every single year, and they have no complaints. That's why I think if someone like a Kenneth Grant or a Derek Harmon fall to Philadelphia, who just lost interior defensive line help, if there's an edge that falls, like a Donovan falls to 32, they're just gonna land perfectly, and they're gonna be able to rebuild just like they always do. And I'm not excited for that necessarily, but I think our guy is here.
I think Derek Harmon's there. The value at 29 for Derek Harmon is crazy. And I think he fits even better the specific need the Cardinals have right now in Kenneth Grant, even if you've got Kenneth Grant higher on your board, I think that that's just like a kind of home run pick. And we got more capital, which Monty loves. I'm good with locking Harmon in.
I'm absolutely okay with this. So I didn't spoil my mock draft to you yesterday, but we ended up taking Kelvin Banks and then trading up for Derek Carmen in the round 2. But now
Nice.
we have so much capital to work with, and there's a
We
ton of
really.
players on the board.
Oh, we're still gonna get someone great at 47.
There's a lot of edges in this class,
Hmm.
and a lot of them haven't even flown off the board. You have Princely, who is still here, which I think is a
Okay.
very interesting prospect.
I agree.
Then you also probably have, I mean, it just depends where you want to go, honestly. I mean, do you care about short arms? You can go Jack Sawyer. The short arm concern is there, the ability to win off the edge, get his hand placement right. Jared
Right.
Ivey, someone I like personally. Any names that stand out to you?
I'll say today, who did I get? I got a message from some reporter today. I got a message from one of the guys from the Draft Network, Justin, who was sending me something about Princely Umanmielen having a 30 visit with the Cardinals, and they had a combine visit with the Cardinals. So it's someone that we know for a fact they're interested in, and I like him a lot, dude.
I do too.
Princely's a great player. That Ole Miss defense this year
Oh,
produced so many
you
players.
have this guy too, Trey
It I
Amos.
Yeah, I think their entire starting defense is going to get drafted this year. Honestly,
I think so too. And you know what's weird? I know we don't need a running back, but like just the class of running backs in general, I think is
crazy.
very deep. Like
Oh yeah,
looking at it, I think it is so deep. And people obviously, this guy jumps out to a lot of people just because he's Arizona native. But it's
right.
just like you can get such good value in picks. Like if we just take a look, I mean, at 150 to 299, there's so many guys here where if you really need to take a flyer, you got good prospects.
Oh yeah. Any team that needs to actually replace a starting running back this year, they're in a really good spot with what's available. Um, and I like Demetrius Knight a lot. I mentioned at the top that linebacker's a legitimate need, but I can't get past a 25-year-old rookie. Like he's just old.
It is very true. I mean, you don't have those prime years. I mean, you get the 4 rookie years off. He's almost 30.
Right. Like Kyler Murray almost got through his rookie contract before he turned 25, and a lot of players do. So that scares me off of him. I think he's probably the most complete linebacker in the draft, but Princely is. His metrics are amazing. His pass rush win rate is incredible. Incredible. Now, do you think there's any validity to this argument that would apply to Princely the same way that people are trying to apply it to Josh Sweat? That his numbers, his metrics, and his stats rely really heavily on
A
how
loaded
elite his
defense.
defensive line was.
I mean, I feel like that kind of plays a factor in everything. I mean, if you're a productive edge and you have nobody else on your defense capable of winning against the pass, you can't cover, your stats are going to drop significantly. And I
Yeah.
mean, you surround the team with talent, the team overall is going to be better. If we get more edges, Josh Sweat's going to have a more productive year. If our interior line can actually hold up, stop the run, and create pressure up the middle and just doesn't allow what we saw last season, then yeah, we're going to have a productive Josh Sweat season. So I think it does play a factor, but I don't think the noise is as loud as people make it to be. Like Milton Williams, I think was an overpay. I wanted Milton Williams here
Sure.
because I think he's really young and can grow with his defense. Like if we could have brought both of them in, that would have been great. But I mean, premier positions on top of just building a defense. We have 2 pieces to this defense that I think are huge assets if they stay
Yeah.
healthy. And Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson, those are huge assets to this team. Now we have holes elsewhere. We addressed defensive interior. Our
Yep.
defensive line, exceptional. We can do another one right here where if you're not confident in a BJ Ojolari to come back, if you want to make him a rotational guy and kind of let him find his own, this is the pick. This is absolutely the pick.
I completely agree. Princely is one of my favorite players around this spot, and like even they have there in the bottom line, pass rushing outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. He's a scheme fit too. I just see Rollis and Gannon really being able to get a lot out of him. He plays quite a bit like BJ Ojolari in a lot of ways, and unfortunately we've seen we can't completely rely on BJ Ojolari being healthy. But throwing him, Princely Umanmielen, into the rotation, and hopefully, and I don't mean this in a mean way, like I do really love and respect him as a player, but push Zaven Collins out of that starting lineup as a rotational pass rusher. Like he is the odd man out, even though he was the sack leader, I suppose, in that room.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have a sack move. I don't know.
He's not a pure
But
pass rusher. He has no skill set to rush the passer. You get sacks
no,
created by pressure and people getting forced to
completely.
the outside. It's not like he's winning against a tackle and he's getting to the quarterback. He might have had like 1.5 sacks last year doing that, because if you play edge long enough, you're probably going to get a couple of those. But he doesn't
Completely.
have any moves where it's like you're just comfortable rocking him with the outside. Now, in terms of a run defender, he's good, but rushing the passer,
Yes.
you cannot have no production. So I think Princely's the pick.
I think so too. I have no problems with this. Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and knock it out. And then we also have 61, which
Okay.
I love. I love
Yeah,
having as many picks as possible. This is such a Monty Fort kind of thing to do too.
it
Is
really
doubling down
is.
on defense, trading back, getting a ton of capital, and landing good guys. Demetrius Knight is still here.
Now, see, that's when it starts to get intriguing, is when Demetrius Knight does start falling like this, it does make me start to consider it. Let's see who else we've got,
Because
though.
this would be good production right now. So you couldn't fathom it up here.
Right.
But now it becomes a little more enticing, because it's
Well,
like,
Demetrius,
okay, if he can come in and be a well-established linebacker in a room where we don't really have a mic.
exactly. That's my thing. Like, Demetrius Knight is all about the value of where you get him. And if you can get him way deeper than his actual talent level would suggest because of his age, then you might just luck into having a really mature player that doesn't have to go through as many of those growing pains as a rookie, and throw the green dot on him, and you have a Mike linebacker immediately, because Demetrius Knight can do that. I do genuinely think that he's probably the most prepared to be the green dot of this entire linebacker class. And at 61, you're kind of approaching that. You almost can't say no to him, but let's see what else we have.
Any names that pop out to you?
I mean, if we didn't get Derek Harmon in the first, it would definitely be Norman Lott. He would really be more of a Dalvin Tomlinson nose tackle replacement,
Like
which,
perfect replacement. This is like the same player.
yeah, I'm not even mad at that either, especially with how many additional picks that we got. I am not mad at a backup nose tackle, because the way Rollis' defense works and the way that Tomlinson works at his age, he's probably not going to play more than 60% of snaps. So you do have to have someone else on the roster who's playing the other 40%. He's actually something to think about.
I think me personally, I would be stuck between Demetrius Knight. You obviously got Norman Lott. You have someone like CJ West who's still here,
Right.
which way different player than Norman Lott is. And then Alfred Collins is also very interesting too. This is just a pure run stuffer. Like,
Yeah, I love Alfred Collins, and he's the same thing. He's the future Tomlinson, but you do need someone to play those other 40% of snaps. So like, I'm really not against it, but
how do you feel about taking Demetrius Knight? And then since we have pick 78, you have defensive tackles you like. I mean, if one
right.
of them fly off the board, you trade back up and you take the other.
I think we can probably still get Alfred Collins at 78.
I'm not mad at that. And then if one of them fly off, we just reevaluate.
You know, at 61, getting a green dot ready Mike linebacker is so valuable. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I think that's the best pick. Age
I
aside,
agree. Yeah.
fantastic. Now we just addressed the whole defense, and now we're chilling. So Norman Lott just went off the board, and now if we pause, because we're in the third round now, this would be a steep trade up.
It would.
But do you think we can with a lot of defensive interior needy teams, is it someone? I mean, CJ West is still on the board too, who is projected higher, but it's based on scheme fit.
And you know what else we might want to consider somewhere in this range is interior offensive line.
And we have gone defensive heavy.
We have, like, is Tate Ratledge still available? Like, someone like he might fall to 78, but I'm just
I
wondering
believe he's still on the board.
because the last offensive lineman I think I saw go was Ursary.
Donovan Jackson.
Donovan Jackson. I do like Donovan Jackson.
Yeah, I think Donovan Jackson was the last after here.
Okay, so that does mean Tate Ratledge is probably the best guard left at the moment. Is guard a position that you're going to move up to get?
Probably not. Not this high, I would say. I mean, if it gets to 72, then you
Yeah,
consider it.
I think so too. I think it's really important to get one, but let's see if 72, if Ratledge is still there,
I mean, Alfred Collins and Ratledge are still on the board.
and we're only 6 picks away. I think one of them is going to be there, and you can't really go that wrong with either one of them.
I don't think it's worth giving up capital at
Agreed.
this point because one of them will more than likely fall.
I totally agree.
CJ West off the board and Alfred Collins is
Alfred
off
Collins
the board.
went. All right.
And they do need a guard. I mean, 2 trading up isn't the worst. I don't think it would take that much.
Zach Martin retired this year. They really need a guard.
I don't think this is the worst trade up. All
If-
it would take is a 7th.
If they would take just the 7th, then yeah, totally. Let's go get Tate Ratledge.
Why not? Come on, Dallas. Accept the trade. There we go. Okay. I mean, Chris Paul is
Beautiful.
another pick I like too, but we already got
I do too.
inside
Yeah.
linebacker, so we're chilling. So now we'll just go ahead and get interior offensive line. Take Ratledge. Easy. I think this is very easy.
I think this, like, guard is a position that's being overthought a lot this year because there are so many tackles that they're projecting to be guards at the next level.
There's
Like,
a lot of them. Like Jonah, you can move
Exactly.
interior. I mean, if we go up, you even have someone like a Gray Zabel. I don't even know where he went, but Gray Zabel sizes out to be a guard in the NFL.
Exactly.
I don't even know where he went, but like there's a lot of guys. I mean, Kelvin Banks, if you really want to, could move in guard. You'd be a big guard, but you can move him to right guard.
Exactly. And like Marcus Mabau, I think is projected to go inside in the NFL. And I don't think the difference, the percentage difference between them and Tate Ratledge is so significant that you're going to take a guy to specifically play him in a different position when Tate Ratledge has just played guard his entire college career. Well, Tate Ratledge, pure guard, has played it as specifically right guard, the exact position we need. Let's not overthink it. Let's just get a guy from a top tier program that knows how to play the position.
And that's a key point too. A Georgia guy to come in
Right.
and play guard, not mad at that whatsoever. And I think we just wait till 115.
I agree. I don't think we need to move around from here.
I think we're chilling. This addresses a ton of positions in need off the rip, especially if you're not bringing back Will Hernandez. This
Yes.
just establishes a ton of positions of need. Like
And
all of the top end positions of need are here. The only one is wide receiver that you didn't touch, which is fine. I don't like the same core necessarily. I think there's veterans out there too if you want to go that direction. But this has fallen perfectly.
Yeah, this has been a really good draft so far. And with Ratledge, if he battles it out with Isaiah Adams and Isaiah Adams wins, cool. Well, Tate Ratledge is amazing depth to have, and but I think he can win that starting spot.
What positions would you look towards here? I think offensive tackle, receiver, and corner are very interesting. If there's any other positions you would like me to add, and we'll just look at that.
I agree because wide receiver, it's one of those secondary needs. You could theoretically run out pretty much the same wide receiver room and probably be okay, but I think you can also look to upgrade the wide receiver room. So seeing what wide receivers we got left, especially someone who has got some of that speed on him and can two wide receivers that I think you could use. Either one guy on the outside who is kind of a one trick, I just go really fast guy, has a lot of value, and an upgrade over Greg Dortch. Love the guy, fan favorite for a reason, but I think you also can look to upgrade him. Torrey Horton's interesting. He's not really either one of those. He's a good wide receiver.
I don't know. There's a lot of like wide. I don't think the receiving class is really popping this year.
It isn't,
Next
but
year, different story. You got a guy coming in here who's potentially a top 3 pick.
right. The receiver class next year should be pretty great. Kyle Williams has played a good amount in the slot and has quite a bit of speed too and decent size at 6 foot. He's a guy that I've mocked quite a bit. And Nick Nash from San Diego State is off, or San Jose State. Insanely productive. And you can make the argument, yeah, it's San Jose State, but great size, like the prototypical slot receiver and a high volume guy. He's kind of like a Cooper Kupp clone in some ways. He's really interesting to me. He goes against my generalized feeling of small school guys, but I don't know. He has a good enough speed, all of that slot experience. I think he could at least compete, if not be an upgrade in the slot over Greg Dortch.
I agree 100%. I think receiver, we're chilling till like 152 because I think Kyle Williams or Nick Nash will be there.
Agree.
And I wouldn't be mad taking either of them. If either of them land there, we're in a good spot.
I agree. We can look for something with a little bit more value here. And Monty loves taking a ton of corners and just seeing what happens with them. He's drafted 5, I think.
Yeah. And some of them haven't even played. And
Elijah Jones.
Yeah, Elijah Jones. And some of them barely played and have scratched the surface. So we don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah, which does make it kind of tough to justify this year. Like, you've got Keytrell on the bench. You've got Elijah Jones, a 3rd-round pick from last year you've never even seen play. Max Melton is pretty much slotted in as a starting outside guy. Garrett Williams is an elite slot guy. The only guy you can really replace that's going to get a lot of playing time that's maybe worth it is Sean Murphy-Bunting, who I think most of us would like to replace.
Oh, yeah.
But are you going to get that replacement at 1? Yeah, I don't know.
Probably
I like Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson a lot. Mello Dotson's a freaking ball hawk. For what do you have? 5 interceptions last year?
5 interceptions, 4 touchdowns. He's always been an end zone magnet.
Yeah, he had 11 interceptions in the last 3 years. Mello Dotson, that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
There are 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
Yeah, he's a pick-6 monster. Mello Dotson, that specific skill is why I've looked at him before. But he also has like the ball tendencies of a free safety a little bit more than a corner. And I think we kind of took that guy last year in Dadrian Taylor-Demerson. Ball hawk safety. That's probably going to be the replacement of Jalen Thompson, you know?
So do you want to look at tackle?
Yeah, let's take a look at tackle. I think we could use some. Oh, okay.
Any names that stand out?
I'm looking at Brandon Crenshaw Dixon and at Johnny Cornelius as 2 guys who do stand out.
The thing here that's tough, I mean, I think this is just a pure tackle.
I agree.
There's no moving him. This is your either right tackle of the future, someone you're going to slot in eventually. This is either a rotational guy outside of Kelvin Beachum, which is probably here for 1 more year.
Yeah.
And then this guy slots in and competes with Jonah Williams, or you cut Jonah Williams after this year. And then, again, this is another guy who can flip to the left or the right, which is nice. But I don't think you're moving 6'7" to the inside.
No, I don't think so. Not for this team. Yeah, I agree. Crenshaw Dixon can do both, which it's always valuable if you're picking with depth in mind and you're picking for this guy to be depth, then yeah, that makes sense. If you're still thinking of a guy that might be a future starter, then Cornelius, I think you would have him there to compete with Christian Jones to be the right tackle that replaces Jonah Williams when his contract's up next year.
100%.
I think you hope that Williams will play through 2025 and that you can develop either Cornelius or Christian Jones into the future right tackle, which isn't a crazy thing. Sometimes you have to draft offensive linemen 3 years in advance and develop them. That's not uncommon at all.
The only tough part is since we're so run based, it's tough to go either of these guys because they're both not insanely athletic.
Yeah, which is tough with this team and with a quarterback so athletic and mobile. It's different. I could see Cornelius blocking for Kirk Cousins.
100%.
Kyler Murray is kind of a different beast.
That's why you need like a Paris Johnson, like a Josh Simmons, a guy who can kind of get out there and keep those extended plays extended. You're not getting a Crenshaw Dixon who's 6'7", 322, and I'm pretty sure it'll be in here. Played right tackle. He'll struggle against top tier speed or power. It's going to be a knock on his game. His calm approach to the game. Like, he's not a bad player. I think he's the best of the two. But it's just how much is he going to translate to this offense?
I am totally with you on that. And I want you to hear me out. But what if we take a look at what running backs are left?
Not mad at that. Because there's talented backs here.
I know. And
really talented backs.
I wanted you to click on Brashard Smith, actually. That's exactly the player I wanted you to take a look at. Because he is a converted wide receiver. That's what he played before he was a halfback at SMU.
And we don't have a receiving back.
No, Trey Benson can catch passes, kind of.
He's not like a. I don't even know how to the Cardinals really haven't had a receiving back since Chase Edmonds. I mean, James Conner can do it. Don't get me wrong. For some reason, as soon as he got to Arizona, that part of his game just clicked for whatever reason. He was never a pass catcher, and here he is snagging one hand out of the backfield, just crazy catches, and it's like, okay, James Conner, just keep stunting on him.
Yeah, Connor's had some highlight catches since he's been a Cardinal. But Brashard Smith as just a receiving back is interesting alone, and you can even do with him what you will. Maybe he converts back to a wide receiver. It'd be a little bit crazy. But let's see.
I wouldn't be mad at this.
He's just a weapon. That's my thing. And the modern NFL offense and defense is a lot more position agnostic than it used to be. You can be labeled whatever you want. It's sort of like how we use edge and outside linebacker, and a lot of people just don't even really know the difference because the position has become kind of ambiguous lately. Brashard Smith is just a guy who can catch a football, and a creative coach can do interesting things with him.
He'd kind of play like that Chase Edmonds kind of role. The backup who isn't going to get a lot of tick. And I do think Trey Benson, which is why I'm not super high on Cam Scatterbo.
Agreed.
I think Trey Benson is going to be that guy. We saw the flashes towards the back end of the season. You saw the hesitancy very early on. And then as soon as he kind of realized, like, hey, I do belong here. He's hitting holes hard. He's lowering his shoulder. He's getting production. And I think he has the potential to actually be something really great in the NFL. So
I agree.
If you take a Brashard Smith where James Conner has 1 or 2 more years left here, this wouldn't be the worst player to have him kind of just learn behind and take instead of taking a Cam Scatterbo who's going at 51.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. And the running back value is so high here that I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to taking a Brashard Smith right here.
I crazily wouldn't either. I think he's a better option in that room than Amari DiMercato. No disrespect to him.
Instantly. And DJ Dallas. Instantly.
However, I think Trey Benson has a lot of potential, like you said. By the end of last season, we saw him already starting to play more like James Conner. So he's obviously learning from him. He's being mentored like him. And Trey Benson can be that younger, faster James Conner once the James Conner years are over. But don't you love the times that we had 1-2 combinations with Chase Edmonds and a power back? That was just kind of prime Cardinals running back room. Yeah. And I do love that dynamic. And Brashard Smith, because he has that wide receiver background, he kind of has some of that Rondale Moore element to him, where he can catch passes out of the backfield. He can be your screen guy. He's just a weapon with a ball in his hand. He's interesting.
There's a
I'm
lot of
not
backs.
against it.
There's a lot of backs here where
I
I'm
know.
just so enticed. Like Jordan James, interesting. Even Trevor Etienne, interesting. And then Taj Brooks, just interesting. Like it is
Yeah.
so interesting. Taj Brooks is probably my least favorite project or prospect that I mentioned there. I mean, you can go Khalil Mulligans too. You
Hmm.
really could. This is a bigger back. But like for what we need and what I would be comfortable with, you don't need a power back right now.
No, we've got that covered. I think James Conner and Trey Benson has an element of that to his game, but Smith's really kind of fascinating in some way because he's just an offensive weapon, and use him the way you see fit in the situation. I don't think you just have to think of him as a running back.
I agree. I mean, this is a guy with a good skill set. So, do we wait it out or do you just rock with it right now?
We can probably get him at that next pick. We probably could. So I'm
Okay.
willing to see if he falls because he's a luxury pick.
Okay. I mean, I'm not against taking a corner. I don't necessarily think it fits. I mean, you could go here,
Yeah, JJ
double
Pegues is
down on Ole
interesting.
Miss.
Yeah, he had a really good combine too.
We could double down on defensive interior, or we could take a look at it because
Yeah,
there's
let's take a look at it
not the biggest fan here.
because we only have Derek Harmon as a defensive lineman, right?
Yes, through the draft so far, we got Demetrius, Derek, Princely, and then Tate Ratledge.
Okay, so which of these interior defensive linemen could be the nose tackle replacement for Tomlinson? Let's look like 3 years down the line. Who could take over for him?
Oh man,
Zeke Biggers is someone that the team has met with several times. He doesn't grade super well,
I mean, fits the
but
defense.
he's a
Speed
nose
is here.
tackle.
He is a nose tackle, big arms. I don't know
Yeah,
much about Zeke Biggers, but 6'6", 320. The grades don't stand out to you.
no,
Is
I'm not
that
going to sit here and lie and say that I watched a ton of Georgia Tech tape either. I just know that the Cardinals have met with and are openly interested in him.
okay? And then you take a look at the games that he's graded against good teams. I mean,
Notre Dame,
Miami 66.6, not a fan. And then you have Notre Dame. North Carolina is a decent program on the up and
Syracuse,
coming. Syracuse is a decent one, but then you also have Georgia, where it is
which
just flat out disgusting.
can you blame him? He's
Which
going
you
against
can't, you
Jared
can't, yeah,
Wilson and
you
Tate
can't
Ratliff.
blame them. You got prospects going in the top 100 on the defensive line, and Georgia's just Georgia.
Yeah, on that Georgia game, Zeke Biggers is going against a guy that we already took, Tate Ratledge, and going against Jared Wilson, the
Yeah,
center.
and
So
this is
you
Georgia
can't blame
Tech
him.
we're talking about. This is
Right.
Georgia Tech going against Georgia, but he didn't grade well, which, I mean, the tape might speak volumes. There's a reason the Cardinals are meeting with them.
Sure. He is also 100% only a run defender. I mean,
Yes,
if you looked at his stats, he has 0 sacks ever.
and he's not
He's a
getting to the quarterback. I mean,
he's a run defender.
yeah,
That's
there's
it.
four
So
QB hits.
I know. I'm worried about his production too. I just know that there's a level of interest there.
It's an interesting prospect. I mean, that might be a pick at 152 if you're not in love with it. You can trade back to like 170 and get 2 7th-round picks.
Yeah, is JJ Pegues an edge or is he a nose tackle? I don't know as much about him.
He's a big boy. He's a
Wow,
big
yeah.
boy. Yeah, I don't think you're moving him outside.
Versatile player, fan favorite, relentless play, 4 sacks, so he can get a bit of pressure.
I think this wouldn't be the worst pick because it
I,
kind of
I kind
goes.
of like it.
It kind of goes in terms of like, hey, this is a guy who can learn under Dalvin Tomlinson, has the
Right.
size to be the big body in the middle when Dalvin Tomlinson's done. Which who knows how well he's going to perform when he's 33, 34. I think this year he's
Exactly.
going to have a good year.
I think at this spot, he's talented enough where you can make the rationalization of you take him and you use him as you can use him, and maybe you do groom him as the Tomlinson replacement nose tackle. But I kind of like the Pease pick.
I'm not mad at it.
I think that's double up. Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and do it. Double up on defensive interior. We need that. We need more big bodies. And we can also go edge too, because we're letting a lot of guys go. I mean, if there's an edge prospect that stands out to you.
Oh, Antoine Powell-Ryland's one of my favorite players in this draft.
Yeah, so I mean, if he's here, why not double up? I wouldn't.
He's got a great pass rush win rate. He was uber productive. He had 14 sacks last year and 10 the year before that.
And you got to think about the guys we just let go. Might not be productive guys, but the room is a lot smaller than it was going into it.
Right. Yeah, Powell-Ryland's really interesting at what are we at? 130 or 128?
He's ranked 136, so I don't think he's going to be here for much longer.
Agreed.
I'm surprised he's still on the board.
I am too.
As a primary position of edge, I'm shocked to see edge not go this high. I would even expect Savion Jones to go.
I wouldn't be mad taking him here, and then we check in on that last pick and see if either Brashard Smith or Nick Nash are there.
Okay, let's do it.
I think that's really good value.
Willie Lampkin, Tori. I mean, we might have a world where both of them are available.
I think we do.
Both of them are available. No, they're not. Where did he go? I did not see his name fly off the board.
I didn't either.
It must have been above here. I mean, I'm still not seeing it. Am I tripping? I gotta be tripping.
He has to still be there, right?
Am I losing my mind?
No, I'm not seeing him either.
Maybe I'm losing my mind. What? Did you just magically get taken off the board? Oh, there he goes. 139.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Kyle Williams, I think, is still here. Yeah. You got
Kyle Williams and Nick Nash are both still there. All right, that's interesting.
So what would you think about trading down and then... Okay, that's never going to go through. And snagging, like, a 7th round pick. Move down 4.
That feels like a Monty thing to do. Like, he's not throwing 7th round picks away just for fun. He values all of the picks. How far would we be moving down? 4 spots?
Just 4.
Yeah, we'll still get Nash or Williams. So let's see what happens.
One of them's got to fall. And I'm not mad either way. That's
no. Totally happy.
They're both still here, so you got the choice.
Okay. So here's the thing. Kyle Williams, bigger school, bigger program, Washington State. So at least saw kind of a slightly higher level of competition, but is not pure slot receiver. He has a lot of experience there. And he was really productive in college too. Nothing against him. Good size, I think. 14 touchdowns last year. Yeah. And then Nick Nash was, the Triple Crown winner, like you said. He insanely productive, but the level of competition is Air Force, Sacramento State. He did play Washington State, apparently, Wyoming, UNLV. So
not a ton of big schools on here.
No, he did not play the highest competition level.
But it's hard to overlook the tape because his footwork and like ability is very Cooper Kuppy, like you said.
Yeah. And he's 6'3".
Yeah, he's a big body receiver. And that's what's interesting. I've heard people like Victor Cruz come out and have talked really highly about Nick Nash, which is crazy because this is the Triple Crown winner.
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously going to San Jose State, you're not getting a lot of looks.
Right. And he doesn't stand out with like crazy long speed. I don't know if he's run a pro day, or I don't think he was even invited to the combine. I don't think he like has a crazy 40 time or anything like that. So there are limits to it, but if you want an upgrade in the slot specifically, I think Nick Nash is an upgrade over Greg Dortch pretty much day one.
Not even close. I think he does a lot of things better, actually. Greg Dortch, obviously the more shifty guy, the guy in space where he's going to make more people miss. But if you're talking about getting open, route running, separation, being a big body guy who is used to playing the slot, would literally fit instantaneous. This is probably the best option to go. And this is a guy who is a touchdown magnet. It took Greg Dortch to the back end of the season to even get some production. So taking this at, he's ranked 168th. Where are we now? 156? I think this is good value.
I think so too. I think waiting this long to get a wide receiver that's the specific type that you need, that's not an overreach in a kind of weak wide receiver class, I think it's kind of smart. I think we did it kind of beautiful.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and take him. I'm
Let's
not
do
mad
it.
at that whatsoever. I mean, we just doubled down on 2 premier positions. On top of that, you got your Mike linebacker to come in here instantaneous, even if it's not to learn as the instant starter to Mac Wilson. You got a guy who can come in here and compete for guard right away. Will probably start. Will 100% start.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think so.
right guard, you have nobody competing at that spot. So that is Tate Ratledge's position. So now you just got another starter on offense. You got a
Agree.
starter on defense, 100%. 2 rotational guys and 2 people who will come in here and compete instantly for positions.
Yeah, in the first 4 picks, I think you got 4 starters,
Yeah.
which is really good value. Really good. And you might even have a starter in Nick Nash there in the 5th round too. You might be looking at 5 starters right now.
Yeah, this is a guy who comes in and competes right away.
Yeah, 100%. And we still have 1 pick in the 7th to just take depth, whatever depth that we need.
Go get a special teams guy. You go get, I mean, me personally,
Developmental safety. Yeah,
I like Craig Woodson. 6 foot 210.
I'm not mad at that.
Pretty good.
I think you're looking at safeties in this draft, seeing who you can get. You're not going to put a big pick into it, but Jalen Thompson, I'm fairly confident this is his last year with the team, and you want DTT to slot in at free safety after he leaves, but that also means you need to start supplementing the safety room right now. So I think a safety somewhere in this draft is pretty reasonable.
Shiloh.
Let's not get a Sanders in the building.
Shiloh.
I like Greg Woodson too. Malachi Moore has problems, from what I hear,
Really?
like severe behavioral problems.
I mean, talent-wise, like,
He went to Bama.
yeah,
He's
he went
very
to
talented.
Bama. His forced incompletion rate is high as crap. Coverage
Yeah.
grade is through the roof. Can even run defend.
Talent's not the problem. I think why he is graded this low is because he apparently has some pretty severe behavioral problems.
I was about to say, like, looking at his grades, like, why is he here?
Exactly.
Like, I was about to bring that up. I
Exactly.
was looking at him. I don't know if you saw that, but I clicked on his profile and I'm just like,
Yep.
huh.
Yeah, a Bama guy in the 7th round, period, is kind of weird. But he grades super well, and I still think teams don't want to touch him. So that says
I
a
wonder
lot.
what high character guys. I know Malachi Starks is one of those high character guys, and
Yep.
he's been falling and
know.
falling. If a team like, I think Minnesota would be perfect for a Malachi Starks
Yeah.
to just let, like, look,
Agree.
he's right here. Like, if he falls to 24, if the Vikings can snag that, I think he is going to be one of those guys who just learns from Harrison Smith, and people are going to regret passing on him.
Oh yeah, Malachi Starks is one of my favorite players, period, in the draft.
He just seems like a good guy, and the tape backs it as well in terms of production.
He's a crazy athlete, man. But
And he takes it
Malachi
well.
Starks, like, we can't justify a 1st round pick on a safety.
No,
You know
we're not in that position. You just extended Buda Baker. You just extended Buda.
exactly. But man, he's a crazy athlete. Some team's gonna get really lucky with Malachi Starks falling to
Could
them.
you imagine letting Buda run free safety?
No,
Could you imagine?
no. But man, it'd be cool.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm fine with the run support that he brings at the strong, because Malachi Starks, I feel like, can play either. I mean, you could have him
Oh,
and
yeah.
Romer. Malachi Starks could come in here instantly, and that safety room is just fantastic. And then you could just cut Jalen Thompson or trade him. But in terms of realism, I don't see it. There's absolutely
Exactly.
no chance. I don't even think he's on the board, which, ugh, it's just those prospects that hurt, like Mason Graham, Malachi Starks. Those 2 guys, I feel like
Yep.
are going to be so nasty, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And we're not even in
Totally.
a position to get a Mason Graham. So would you just take a flyer on a Craig Woodson?
I would. We already picked up so much other capital that we've we've gone from what, 6 players to 9 players in this draft class, something like that.
8. That's
8.
pretty good.
That's still pretty good. Yeah, I think you can take the safety you like the most and have him in the room. Maybe he's just depth after Dadrian Taylor Demerson takes over for Jalen Thompson, but
Just a
I think it's
special
worth
teams
it.
guy.
You got to start filling out that room now, and yeah, you can throw him on special teams. You can start getting some experience now.
I'm not mad at that whatsoever. And I think this draft, this is back-to-back drafts where if they happen, I am not mad. I love
No, I'm kind of excited for this
I
one.
love both of the mocks that I've done in back-to-back days. So this we still landed Derek Harmon. And we
I
traded
know.
back and got so much capital from Washington. And PFF just let us snag all of
Yeah,
this.
they did. I mean, 13 spots is pretty severe trade back. Um, they might have let us go a little bit crazy
They
with
let
it.
us go crazy.
But getting Derek Harmon, a player who I think fits the team need the best, maybe not the most talented defensive lineman, but fits the needs the most at 29. Plus, we got Demetrius Knight out of that trade too at 61. And at 128, we also got a rotational pass rusher, Antoine Power Island. Like, that's crazy.
There's just so much value here. Like looking at the board through these first 6 players. 6 players in the first 4 rounds.
Yes, which is amazing value. And it's the place you want to be in this class, that middle tier is the biggest tier. There's that really tiny top elite, and then most of the class is right there in the middle, and then there's the bottom. I think we kind of nailed how many picks we get. 4 picks in the top 100.
Yeah.
Kind of nailed that.
And they're going to call Tate Ratledge a reach, which maybe it is. Maybe he goes in the 90s. But for where we're picking, he's not going to be there at 115. We didn't
Exactly.
want to trade back up. Your guy is there. You need a guard. You
For
gotta
us,
get
it
him.
made sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
you
us,
had to
it
get
makes perfect sense.
a guard. Maybe the perfect value in the perfect world is 4th round, but I think for us that worked out just fine, and I'm more than comfortable giving up a 3rd rounder for Tate Ratledge.
100%. In that 7th round, I mean, this is just a flyer. This is such a Monty Austin-Fort move right here.
It
You know
is.
your guy's going to be there in 2 picks. Cool. We'll take
Hmm.
that pick, get a 7th rounder, bring another player in here, and have him just compete. Like, I love this. I love
Yeah, the
everything
Dallas
about
trade
this.
probably feels the most Monty of all of them because
100%.
he's done that before. Just like, we'll move down 2 spots,
I
3
mean,
spots.
this one too. The exact
Yeah,
same framework. Hey, we'll take a 7th round pick.
he loves that. He loves that. So I kind of love this draft. What overall grade did it give
It
us?
better be an A minus. Yeah, it better be
Am
an
I?
A minus. I mean, I would probably say they wanted us to take Luther Burden, which
Great player, but no.
I don't even think Luther Burden's top 3 wide receivers in this draft. Personally, I have Matthew Golden and Ibuka fighting for 1 and 2.
Agree.
I think McMillan is the third,
Oh, of course, yeah.
and then I mean you can argue a Luther Burden.
Yeah, 4th or 5th, probably.
I'm not taking him.
No, not after you just spent the 4th pick on Marvin Harrison Jr.
No.
You probably want to look at wide receivers in this draft, but I think exactly kind of where we looked at it for the Nick Nash. Day 3 guy who does one thing specifically well, not the first, the second, the third best receiver in the entire class. That's probably not going to happen this year.
No, and it shouldn't, because like I'm high on
Yeah.
Ibuka, but I can't rationalize it unless he's there in like the top of the second, and then you want to trade back up, which I don't think he will be there.
I mean, if Egbuka had been there in this trade at 29, or Matthew Golden somehow is still there, I think of course you think about
for
it.
sure, that is a complete different
Yeah.
discussion. If they're there at 29,
Yeah.
because I guess what? If that's the case, you're probably gonna have someone like Derek Harmon still on the board too. So if you're picking
Yeah.
at 47, I will give up a 3rd round pick to move up and either
Totally.
snag a Princely or a Derek Harmon and walk away with, hey, we just got our slot guy or an outside guy, and on top of that, we also addressed one of the biggest positions of need.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree.
But here we did everything.
Now, this board fell so well.
It did, and I'm not complaining at anything, like at all. Got your
No,
Mike,
I
got talented edge, talented defensive lineman, got your starting guard, rotational defensive interior lineman, which we need more of those guys. We lost a lot of edges through free agency, even if they're not good. So you get a young guy in Powell
mhm.
Ryland, slot receiver who can compete, special teams guy here, where whenever Jalen Thompson leaves, he'll be a backup safety.
Yeah, man, I think this fell so well. I don't think any of these were a crazy reach, and the Demetrius Knight falling to 61 was kind of abnormal. Haven't seen that happen too much, but him falling almost, let's see, twice as far as where he's graded, and he is kind of generally around that very top of the second round. If you did get him late in the second like that, I'm willing to throw aside the 25-year-old rookie
Oh,
concerns.
for sure.
Yeah, that's just he is the most complete linebacker in this class. You can't pass up on a starting Mike linebacker at 61 if he's there.
No, not at all. And Jahad Campbell is very interesting, but he's going top 15 more than
Yeah,
likely.
yeah,
And
he
Jahad
is.
Campbell just pass rush coverage, he just does it all. But Demetrius Knight, in terms of being NFL ready with like no problems, I think this is how it goes. In
Yeah,
terms of
he's not an exciting player, but
no,
he's going to be a solid player, and that's all you want at Mike anyway.
exactly. Is there anything on the big board, first round, where you're just absolutely shocked at the positioning? I see, I guess, nothing necessarily standing out.
Nothing crazy. It it is definitely not out of the realm of possibility, but signing Jameis and Russ and still drafting Shador at 3, I'm not sure if New York is wanting to do that or if they have such little faith in this quarterback class that they think that they can get through a year with Jameis and Russ, and then the next quarterback class in 2026 is supposed to be significantly better. I don't know if they're gonna to give the third overall pick for Sanders. Not
I
sure.
don't know. I don't think it really plays a factor in them signing Russell Wilson. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's going to deteriorate them or deter them from taking a Shador Sanders. I think it's very possible. I think it is a 50-50.
Right.
I think the prospects are either Shador or Travis Hunter.
Agreed.
And it's
Agreed.
just what you want at that point. Do you want somebody who can play corner, somebody who can come in here and play receiver, or do you want to go get a quarterback? It'd make the quarterback room very interesting because Russell
Hmm.
Wilson's on a 1 year deal. So after that, you don't have anything. But like signing Russell Wilson, it's like that kind of deteriorates your tank job. Like if you were
Right.
tanking for a quarterback next year, you would have just wrote out Jameis Winston and let him just force feed the ball to Malik Neighbors and let him get comfortable and pick up like 1,800 yards. You would
Yeah.
have just rode out with that. But now
That's a
it's
good
like you
point.
got Russell Wilson on a 1 year deal. Is this just like, hey, you get a backup for the next 2 years and you have Shador Sanders backup? Russell Wilson plays 1 year, but what if he balls out? Like,
Yeah.
you're in an interesting spot. He just gets paid, probably,
Uh-huh.
is what happens with that.
Probably.
And then the Giants compete, and then Shador learns for a year. I wouldn't be mad at that. Me personally, I think Shador Sanders is better than Cam Ward in a ton of aspects. In terms of athleticism, Cam Ward has that over
Yeah.
Shador. But if we're talking accuracy, timing, everything, I think he is the way better prospect. And someone that I've seen go in the top of the first, I've seen him up to the Steelers, is Jackson Dart, who I think is not a good quarterback in like any realm, but he goes.
He
And it's
does.
weird because, like, I mean, what NFL team is just going to let you air it out like that? Turn on his tape, it's not impressive.
Jackson Dart is a guy who would need to sit for a couple years. If Jackson Dart got the Aaron Rodgers treatment of getting to sit for 3 years behind a Hall of Famer,
Then
he
maybe.
maybe I could see that happening. But yeah, if you're relying on your franchise to take Jackson Dart and go ball out year one, that's not going to happen.
You're going to have some timing issues. You're going to have a bunch of issues, and you're going to want to, especially if you're taking him in the first round.
Yeah,
I don't like Jalen Milroe, but I would rather take Milroe in the first round before
same.
Jackson Dart. I don't think either of them are first round talents. I think there's two quarterbacks worth a first round pick. I don't think Cam Ward is necessarily worth a first round pick, but I think he is the consensus one here. I just can't see a world where they go anywhere else. And if the
Yeah,
Browns don't go Abdul Carter, they're just stupid because Myles Garrett, you don't know how long and how
totally.
happy he's going to be. Go ahead and get the best player in your eyes available. I think this kind of landed, but like these are the two quarterbacks. And the
Agree.
Cardinals kind of just benefit so nicely for this class being all over the place.
It's a really weird class this year. Really, really weird. Yeah.
But I like it. I think we
I do
nailed it.
too.
What would your grade be for the Cardinals draft right here if this is how
I
it
would give
landed?
this an A. I wouldn't even have a minus after it. I would give it an A.
I would probably be in the A minus to A range. Once again, that's back to back drafts. And these have been my best two mock drafts. It's crazy. Like, absolutely crazy. The way it's falling, the way the trades have just been so perfect and all the capital. None of this one might be a little crazy. Maybe a little
Little
bit.
bit.
Maybe a
Tiny.
little bit.
But you take out the like future picks, and this is still the same class. So yeah, you
Yeah.
can you can do that in your mind.
You can
Take
argue what you want to argue with it.
exactly.
I'm not mad at it. I love this. This is an A to A minus.
I'm totally with you on that. I agree.
Let's go. W mock draft. Appreciate you for stopping by once again, man. It
Of
was
course.
very fun. Let them know where they can find you once again and how they can watch your content.
Absolutely. You guys can always find me on Twitter at azcard_birdseye. You guys can also find me now on TikTok with some short form stuff, Bird's Eye View. And then you can find my YouTube channel. So stick on YouTube. Just go type in Bird's Eye View. You can go see my argument for our boy Derek Harmon that we just took, arguing him against Kenneth Grant. Great players, but Harmon maybe fits for the Cardinals a little bit better. You can go read about those arguments on Sports Illustrated as well. So you can find me a lot of places. But I just appreciate you for having me on, dude. I think we had an
Absolutely.
amazing mock draft.
I think we did too. I think we absolutely killed it. And if you guys are new to the channel and you ended up enjoying content like this, consider hitting that subscribe button. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers. I think we're 13 away. So if you're new, enjoyed the content, press that subscribe button. Let's hit 8K. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in, man. It is much love. It's been your boy Mythic and Kyler. Peace out.